Hey, what is going on, everybody? RonMan coming back at you, and today we're taking a look at a Super Famicom RPG that never left Japan. It's called Warriors: Legend of the Blue Dragon 2 Heroes. Kind of reminds me of that piece of crap Xbox 360 game that came out called Two Worlds, and there's that one NPC who's like, Warriors, haired ones.
Warriors, hard ones.
Yeah, that guy. Thankfully, this game has nothing else in common with Two Worlds, so let's jump into it. By the way, quick note, because this game's title is so long, Warriors, Legend of the Blue Dragon, 2 Heroes, I'm just going to call this game Warriors. Warriors is a tactical RPG that was developed by Game Freak and published by T&E Soft Inc. for the Super Famicom in 1997. Yeah, the same team who make the Pokemon games made this game. You play as a 15-year-old boy who sets off to find his missing sister. Shortly after starting a new game, you team up with a female who's been turned into a monster. The first thing I want to talk about is the combat, because in this game it's really unique. Although it looks like an action RPG, the combat is actually tactical and turn-based. You and the enemies take turns moving. This is true while you're in the overworld and while in battle. As long as you're not moving, neither will the enemies. This is nice because you can take your time to figure out how you're going to deal with each battle. When a battle begins, you're presented with a screen. You'll notice that each battle has a par for how many turns it should take you to finish the fight. If you go beyond the par, that's okay, you just won't be awarded with Magatama. More on this later. However, if you do take too long, dark energy will begin draining your HP. So even though you don't have to finish a battle under par, you also don't want to take too long either. At the bottom of the screen is your HP and soul meters. As you'd expect, if you lose all your HP, you die and go back to the last time you saved. Yes, this game can be a challenge, but the good news is you have access to many different techniques which you learn throughout the game. Along with getting a sword, you'll also be given an arm bracelet which can be used to create a sort of energy shield. Of course, you can use the shield to block, but you can also use it as a projectile to attack enemies. Doing this will cost spirit points. You also have a charged sword attack, which is great for attacking enemies who may be surrounding your immediate area. It does come at a cost, however. Using the charge attack will cause you to become tired and therefore lose turns. You can even choose how strong to make the charge. The longer you charge, the stronger your attack will be. However, the stronger the attack, the longer the recovery will be. This is a neat example of risk versus reward. Your monster companion will also be very useful during battle. At first, she'll only be able to lift you up and move you around, but later on, she'll learn her own abilities like being able to attack enemies, scout the area, fetch items, and heal you. She too levels up, but only if you use her to attack enemies. She learns these abilities from certain colored springs that you'll encounter in the overworld. Speaking of, throughout the game, you'll explore the overworld, enter villages, speak with townsfolk, explore different caves, and of course, fight monsters. In the overworld, you can chop down bushes, which, as I'm sure you don't need me to point out, is very Zelda-esque. As you do this, you can find red gems which act as this game's currency. In villages, you can use these red gems to buy different ointments or antidotes. Ointment, I don't like the word ointment. It feels weird to pronounce. Ointment, by the way, is this game's version of a potion. You'll also stumble across magic items which cast spells but are consumed upon use. It's also on the overworld, where you'll encounter enemies. This game does not contain random battles. Just like in Paper Mario, if they happen to hit you to trigger the fight, they'll get a cheap shot at the start. However, if you hit them to trigger the fight, well, you just won't get hit upon the start of battle. As you level up, your strength and HP will increase. If the game has deemed your level much higher than an enemy you attack on the overworld, rather than starting a battle sequence, the game will just kill the monster and let you continue on. Also like in Paper Mario. The downfall is that you won't earn experience or a Magatama for those monsters. However, if you do want to engage in a fight sequence with a weaker enemy, press X to have your monster companion initiate the fight instead. When it comes to weapons, armor, and equipment, you just get what the game gives you. In fact, there is no armor at all, but when it comes time to get new swords, it'll happen naturally as the story progresses. Now, I don't want to spoil too much of this game, but just after you get to the snowy island, you'll eventually be given a new sword. This new sword is stronger, and because of that, it has the ability to chop wood. This means that you can now now clear away wooden stumps that once blocked certain paths. Now you'll have new areas to explore. After you learn how to chop wood, an NPC teaches you how to build campfires. Each fire you start will cost 10 wood, but you recover all your HP. It's a really neat touch. In fact, this game constantly had neat surprises throughout. Again, I don't want to spoil too much though. Now let's talk about Magatama, which is this oddly shaped stone that looks like a dusk relic from the Skyward Sword. They're ancient jewels that are supposed to be goodness in a crystallized state. Throughout the game, you'll often end up at this place, which I refer to as the Center Island. When you're at the Center Island, there's a tower out in the middle of the sea. When you step on this pad, the Magatama will attack the tower. Basically, throughout the game, you need to collect enough Magatama to destroy the tower to be able to enter the Heavenly Realm, which is where the final boss is located. One thing I will spoil is that this game has a bad ending and a good ending. To destroy the tower, you'll need 800 Magatama. Anything less and you'll just cause damage. To get the good ending, however, you'll need to destroy the tower with 1300 Magatama. So how do you get this elusive crystallized goodness? Well, it all comes down to killing enemies. Like I mentioned earlier, each battle has a par. If you win the battle on par or anything over par, you will not earn Magatama. But if you beat the battle under par, you'll earn Magatama equal to the number of turns by which you beat the par. So you can see here that the par is 16, but I happened to beat the fight in 10 turns. That means I receive 6 Magatama. Another important item that you'll come across throughout your journey are teardrops. Each teardrop you collect will increase your soul meter. Every so often, as you collect teardrops, you'll hit milestones. When you hit a milestone, your armband will increase in strength and gain new functions as represented by the change in color. Toward the end of the game, you'll have to take down 8 dragons. It's at this point where you can go back and track down all the teardrops you missed, because now you have all the abilities this game will give you. So before taking down the dragons, you can take some time to complete the optional teardrop side quest. In total, there are 50, and having them all will give you the strongest armband. Now you can explore the whole world and return to areas you've already been to discover new caves and dungeons that you could not access earlier because you didn't have the right item or ability. Many of these extra dungeons also contain puzzle elements. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but in this particular area, the teardrops are not just sitting out waiting for you to take them. It turns out you have to move blocks around to create a path to the teardrops. So you have to figure out which blocks to push and in which order. If you make a mistake, you can just leave and come back. I really enjoyed these extra dungeons. I would recommend completing the teardrop side quest because it makes the final areas much easier to deal with. Now, when it comes to the graphics and sound, they're both done really well. I absolutely love the look of this game world, especially the overworld. In fact, the look of this overworld alone is what made me want to play this game. Okay, so I love Super Nintendo RPGs, but like any console and any genre, not every game is going to be amazing. I always have to psych myself up before I jump into an RPG, especially ones that never left Japan. Yeah, you can watch reviews and try to learn about the game beforehand, but you never really know what you're fully getting into, and because RPGs are a really big commitment, you're gonna want them to be good. In my last review, I looked at Mystic Arc. It was okay, but I thought it was so boring. Ultimately, I was bummed out with my experience, and I was just happy to get the game done with. Thankfully, my experience with Warriors was a lot different. This game is fantastic. The music and the graphics are great, the gameplay was really fun, the story was interesting. Overall, it was a fun experience. For me, the worst thing an RPG can be is boring, and that was Mystic Arc, The Seventh Saga, and Brainlord. Those games, to me, were just so boring. They're not bad games, don't get me wrong, and you might like them. But just for me, that's the worst thing, a boring RPG that I never look forward to. Like when I was playing Warriors, I looked forward to playing it when I wasn't playing it. And when I was playing it, I didn't want to shut it off. But with Mystic Arc and The Seventh Saga, it felt like work. I would look at my Super Nintendo and go, do I want to continue on Mystic Arc or do I want to play something fun? You know, and there are some games that you play once and never play them again. To me, that's The Seventh Saga, Mystic Arc. They were fine, I'll never play them again. But then there are games that I'll repeatedly play until I die, like Chrono Trigger, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, Final Fantasy IV or 2, Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy VI, and now Warriors. There's many other games as well, but this game is now part of the rotation. It's that good. Well, that's all for this episode of RonMan Gaming. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and never trust anyone who needs a haircut Goodbye.